Good, good.
Very good, okay. So, today, my name's Elliot Reed. I'm an osteopath. Does anyone know what an osteopath is?
Yep.
What do osteopaths do?
I don't know.
Okay, so, in short, we get people pain-free. So we take people from being injured, in pain, who might be confused as to why they're in pain and not know how to get out of pain, and then we guide them throughout a process where we take care of their pain with manual therapy. So treatment, massage, manipulation, etc. Then we also provide dietary advice, we provide exercise rehabilitation advice, lifestyle advice, to make sure that we're pushing people along that spectrum to becoming pain-free. Now that spectrum can be very, very different depending on who we're seeing. For example, if we're seeing someone who sits down or lays down most of the time, that's very different to getting, for example, a tumbler or a gymnast pain-free. So today we're going to be focusing on you guys, and obviously you guys as parents as well, as to how we can make sure that you are staying as healthy as possible, as pain-free as possible, as comfortable as possible, but also performing as well as possible. Give you the tools to do so, and then of course, if you get stuck, then you're always welcome to come to the clinic for treatment if you need. After today, everyone here, or the whole club, gets 10% off of any clinical services at Revitalise, and we also do free consultations where we can assess and diagnose and tell you how we can help you before. All right, so I was going to approach this in basically a broad format, right? So looking at building a pyramid, making sure that we've got a nice wide base, making sure that your diet, your exercise, your knowledge is up to scratch so you can peak higher. Peaking at the top means that you're able to perform as best as you can. I've been told to talk more about injury prevention, diet, maybe a little bit of sleep as well. Is there anything else from the parents that you'd like me to delve into, apart from that? All good? Okay, all right, so let's start with our pyramid. The taller the pyramid that we want, i.e. the higher the achievements that we aspire to have, the wider the base of the pyramid, right? Otherwise, we're not going to be able to peak very high, it's going to be a very unstable pyramid. Now, in the base of the pyramid comes our sleep, our diet, and also our exercise, or the founding exercises, the basic exercise or our foundations when it comes to our strength, speed, stamina, etc. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is diet. And I'm going to make sure that we keep this chat to about 15 to 20 minutes, because I've seen from research that's about the average attention span, and then after that we'll go into some questions after. All right, so first thing, diet. So tell me what you think you guys need from your diet to be the best tumblers or the best gymnasts you could possibly be. What do you reckon you need?
Go on, Gabs. Chicken.
Carbohydrates, fantastic. What carbohydrates?
Guys, listen.
Just acts as like a stored form of fuel.
Yes, fuel. Precisely, it's fuel. Okay, and it's fast acting. Perfect. What else do we need? So that's going to keep us going. What else do we need? Yes.
Greens.
Greens. Amazing. What's good about greens? Do you know?
No.
Okay, I'm going to talk about that in a second. Anything else? What else do we need? So we've got things that are going to make us move, carbohydrates. We've got greens and other things which are going to help us in other ways, which we'll talk about in a second. But then we've got something else that we need to build us up. What's that going to do?
Protein.
Protein. Amazing. Where do we get protein from?
Chicken.
Chicken. Anything else?
Meat.
Yeah. Anything else?
Fish.
Yeah. Anything else?
Nuts.
Okay. Yeah. Nuts. Perfect. So there's other plants that we can get protein from as well. We're going to talk about that in a second. All right. So first thing, carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are dependent on what we're doing. The more that we're doing, the more carbohydrates we need, and there are certain forms of carbohydrates which are better than others. Please give me a form of carbohydrate that you might eat during the week.
Pasta.
Pasta. Anything else?
Bread.
Bread. Anything else?
Rice.
Rice. Okay. Perfect. Anything else? Think of something that grows. Pick it out of the ground. Potatoes. Amazing. All right. So tell me, when it comes to let's say bread and pasta, where does that come from?
Wheat.
Wheat. Does it look very much like wheat? No. Okay. Rice. Where does that come from? Paddy field. Now, the rice that you eat, does that look like what you pick out of a paddy field? Kind of, right? It's far more similar than wheat is to pasta, right? And then what about a potato? When you eat a potato, does that look pretty much like what you pick out from the ground?
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, so we've got a spectrum already of processed to unprocessed. The more that something doesn't look like what you could have picked from your garden, the more processed it is. So, for example, if we're talking about the sugar in fizzy drinks, that's a form of carbohydrate, doesn't really look much like sugar cane. When we look at pasta, wheat, it comes from, pasta and bread, it comes from wheat, but it doesn't really look like wheat. Then when you look at potatoes, yams, if you look at sweet potato, or even rice, especially brown rice, it looks very much like what it would have looked like in its raw form. Tend to find that it's better for you towards that end of the spectrum. Why? Because it's high in something called fibre. Fibre is really, really important because it reduces the amount of inflammation in your body. For example, if I live on a diet which is very, very rich in fizzy drinks, in, say, pasta, or a lot of bread, or a lot of sweets and things like that, what happens is, because I've extracted all of the things that protect the plant, we don't get those protective benefits as well, which means our inflammation shoots up. That's why, for example, we see a lot of individuals at the clinic who are in, say, their 40s and 50s and haven't done anything to hurt themselves. They've done nothing to hurt themselves, haven't fallen over, haven't tripped, but they've got what we call pseudo-injuries, which is where their bodily inflammation is so high that their knees hurt, their ankles hurt, they feel stiff first thing in the morning for no particular reason. So the more that we consume what looks like a plant, the lower our inflammatory levels go, you recover from your training a lot better, and it also fuels your training a lot better. However, we can talk about a bit of sports-specific carbohydrate intake in a second, which will help you. Now, you mentioned very well greens, right? Amazing. All right, so we're going to talk about the rainbow. Have you ever heard of the term eat the rainbow before? Okay, so eat the rainbow is a really, really common term that we use in the clinic to encourage people to get a wide variety of different fruits and vegetables. The reason why is, now greengrocers aren't really a thing anymore. When I was growing up, you would see a lot of greengrocers. Now, you would tend to find that your eyes would light up a lot more, and your nose, you'd smell certain things a lot more going into a greengrocer's than you would a butcher's, right? And the reason why is because we've evolved as human beings to be able to spot nutrition. So when we see bright reds, for example, bright oranges, they're high in vitamin C, which helps our bodies to recover from training. If we see, for example, greens are really high in calcium, which helps our bones to become stronger. So each colour has a different benefit on our body. So the greater the variety of fruits and vegetables that you consume, the more you'll recover. And yet, absolutely, like you said, meat, fish, even dairies contain protein but very little fibre. If we also add in beans and nuts and things like that, that can really, really help us to maintain our nutritional health. Now, when it comes to how this should look on your plates, I want you to think of, first of all, a circle. Cut that circle in half. So that circle's your plate. Cut the plate in half. That should be your fruit and veg. Then cut it into quarters. So on this side, you've got your protein here, and then you've got your protein here, and you've got your carbohydrates here. But if you did want to consume more carbohydrates before training to boost your performance, then you only really need the equivalent of a small glass of orange juice and then about 500 millilitres of water. So what you could do, for example, when you come training, is take a small, say, bottle of the Tropicana orange juice or something like that. You'd sit back whilst you train, have another bottle of water that you can sip whilst you train, and what that will do is keep your energy levels really nice and high, so that when you do tumble, you're full of energy, your brain and your body trusts that it's got a lot more energy, so you'll be able to push your body a lot harder. All right? Any questions on any of that before we continue on to exercise? Any questions?
No, it's clear.
All right, perfect. So, second, exercise. I want someone who is maybe a little bit stiff, someone who's not that flexible.
Go, Jake.
Come on over, Jake.
Go on, Jake.
All right, so, Jake, have you got any existing injuries?
Yeah.
What have you got?
I sprained my ankle like 10 weeks ago.
Left? Right ankle. Okay, right, it's still flexible.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So we'll go through that now, actually. So 10-week ankle sprain, probably looking at about a grade 2 ankle sprain. That's where you've had a partial tear to one of the ligaments in your ankle, right? And that's just because it takes about that long to recover with rehab. But what we're going to do with Jake today is go through a bit of a movement spree. Now, the whole purpose of that body, or of your body, is as a vehicle for your mind. Your mind tells your body what to do and you want your body to be able to respond. So now what we're going to do is put Jake's brain and his body through its paces and see if his body can keep up with his mind. Ready for that? Yeah. All right, perfect. So, the whole aim of the body is to be able to dissipate force when you're tumbling and also to propel you. So the first thing I want you to do, Jake, as best as you can, is you're going to stand at a 10-2 position, and then from here I want you to drive your knees to the outside of your feet. I want you to try and sit in that position if you can. All right, perfect. Almost perfect. All right, come back up to me, please. If you was painful, your ankle. Okay, sorry. If you can to the side so that everyone can see, right? So this time, Jake, I want you to go down as far as is comfortable for you, please. We're just going to have a look at a couple of things. So you see how the knee can't really push over the toes too well? And to compensate, Jake has his hips quite high. If I ask you to sit down, Jake, you'll see the back rounds a little bit more, right? And the heels lift. Come back up to me, please. So we can see here that the ankles can't properly distribute force going through the ankles, and that's a little bit of an issue, because it means that your knees are going to take a little bit more of a hit, the ligaments are going to take a little bit more of a hit. So now let's have a look at your single leg strength. So if you face this way from me, please. So now I just want you to try and stand on your left leg, please. Take the right knee high as you can. So here we've got really good balance. So you see that fight which is occurring in the foot, that's not a problem. From here, I want you to try and push the knee, so you push your left knee towards the outside of your left foot. So you can do basically like a little squat.
And just like,
Yeah, very good. So a little bit more.
what really like it.
Nice, and then back up. So here, for example, you see how, if you do that again with me, please, Jay, you see how the knee deviates towards the inside of the foot, even though his brain is trying to tell him to put the knee to the outside of the foot. Now this a lot of times will be due to a muscular imbalance in the hip here, which can cause more strain through the knee and the midfoot. Now I think we're going to see something a bit more interesting now. Look at your right leg, please. So let's see the same thing on the right leg. So you see, sorry, just stand up for me, please. Yeah, so you stand and then lift, that's it, left knee a bit higher. So you see here the fight is a bit more excessive, and that's partly because the right foot isn't quite recovered from the ankle sprain, so it's going into a bit more of a protective response, and the brain doesn't have as good an idea as to what's happening underneath the right foot. So now when we try and do a squat, let's see how, if you can get, so the heel lifts a lot quicker, so we've got more of an imbalance there in terms of muscular tension, and once again it's harder for Jake to apply balance or coordination to the right foot, which can cause a high likelihood of injury. So it's just basically you need to do a little bit more work before you go back into something going through. Now let's have a look at the shoulders. So from here, Jake, I want you to stand facing this way, hands up above your head, and this time I want you to push your knees forward and out, and I want your hands as high as you can, and then come back up to the knee. Alright, perfect. Weight at the bottom for you, please. So what we really want is a little bit more of a stricter angle here, so we're probably shy of about 30 degrees. And then once again, the knees aren't tracking over the toes, which means that's quite difficult with the bottom. Yeah. Quite a lot of effort, yeah, and come up really good. Whereas what would happen, say you have good mobility throughout the shoulders, good mobility throughout the hips, you can kind of just wait there all day. It's not really going to do anything because you're in a much more efficient position. So that translates into what's happening when you actually tumble. We can also have a look at core, so you do like hollow bodies. Do you do hollow bodies? Hollow body rocks, things like that. So let's have a look at that as well. So if you lay on your back movement, so from here we create hollow body, hands here, that's it, and then just rock to me, please. Good, so Jake's got really good core strength. And then look at the other side of the knees, Jake. So you want to turn on your front, that's it, you do reverse hollow body rock. Forward. Yeah, not too bad, pretty good. So you can see that the lower back muscles it's more difficult for him to maintain the arch in his lower back, so there might, once again, might be a bit of discrepancy between front and back. Alright, feel free to take a seat for you there. So, that was just a basic assessment. Now the reason why I wanted to show you that is because now we can come up with a method, right? So if you guys have got a string of different movement patterns that you go through on a regular basis, for example, common ones are squat, pistol, lunge, plank, hollow body, press ups, handstand. What you really want to do is make sure that you work on your weakest areas and bring your weakest areas up, so that on average you've got good capacity. That will keep you preventing injuries. It will mean that you're going to be more powerful as tumblers as well. It also means that you'll reduce your injuries, increase recovery, and it means that you'll be able to go further as tumblers. Alright, last one, sleep. What's the time?
13:41.
Okay, cool. So last one, sleep, and then we're going to go through some questions and see if there's anything specifically which comes up. If any of you have injuries that you want me to assess, I can have a look at them for you and tell exactly how we would help, right? So, sleep. Tell me, who here gets over 8 hours of sleep a night? Honestly.
Jake, are you sure? I definitely believe Grace.
Wait,
I believe
how
Grace.
old are you then?
20.
Do you?
Oh, okay, fine.
Autumn, are you sure?
Okay, so I'd say that's a minority. Under half of you get more than 8 hours of sleep a night, right? Now, is that right? Did you understand the question? Yeah? Okay, fine. Put your hands up if you get under 7 hours of sleep a night. Right, okay. Keep your hands up for me. Go up really nice and high. Really nice and high. Okay, right, now keep your hands up if you are on some type of electronical device within 30 minutes before you go to bed.
None of you put your hands up.
Okay, I'm back down. Alright, so check this out. They did an experiment and they wanted to see how well human beings tolerate sleep deprivation. Because a lot of us think that we're a bit tough and we can actually survive on less sleep than others, right? They actually found that those individuals who could survive on less or do well with less than 8 hours of sleep a night and still be cognitively sound was less than 0.3% of the population. It's a very, very rare genetic mutation that allows people to thrive on less sleep. So what are the consequences of having less sleep? We find that likelihood of sugary and fatty cravings goes up, our attention span reduces, our bodily inflammation increases, our recovery from exercise reduces, our intelligence reduces. And there's a good reason for this. It's because throughout our 300,000 years of development as human beings, we've never had to deal with the stresses of sleep deprivation. If you go to the average hunter-gatherer tribe, they don't work for as long, they socialise for longer, and they sleep for longer. Now, one of the tough things that you guys have to deal with is you're having to fit into your school regime, i.e. Start school about 9 o'clock, finish just after 3, and you obviously get up at times dependent on what you need in terms of to get to school on time. And your circadian rhythms, i.e. your sleep patterns, will be quite different. However, it's very, very important that you give yourself the opportunity for 8 hours of sleep a night. That means that you need to be in bed, resting, 8 hours at least of sleep a night. I'd say for you guys who are under 15 years of age, you should be getting closer to 10. Right, so now this is what we're going to do. We're going to go, it's up to you, it's up to you. Intelligence, information, recovery from exercise, intelligence again, your how you feel in yourself. You can have that if you want, or you can sleep less. It's completely up to you. So you can't sleep. Okay, so now we're going to go through a checklist of things that you can do to improve your ability to sleep better. All right. First thing, there's a part of our brain called the reticular formation and also the pineal gland. Now these two areas of our brain, they are responsible for picking up on information from the outside world. So like that, for example, would have stimulated your reticular formation, it would have made you more alert, right? Now, the lights in your phones and the lights in your tablets, for example, and TVs do the same thing. They stimulate the pineal gland and reticular formation. So therefore, if you take them away at least 30 minutes before bed and you do something relaxing like listening to music, or you read a book, or you just take the blue light off of your phone, which you can do with filters, that can be a really good way to start to calm you down before you go to bed. It tends to be that the smell of lavender or chamomile tea can also improve the depths of your sleep. And you can also take supplements like Calms and ZMA, which as far as I'm aware are safe for children to consume. These can improve the depth at which you sleep. There are also resources online, if some of you are severely sleep deprived, where you can use these resources to reset your sleep. So you go into a period of sleep deprivation on purpose, and then you program an increase in sleep over the course of, I think, 6 weeks. And over Christmas, that might be a good time for you to start to work to reset your sleep. The issue is that if you're going to sleep at a very different time on the weekends in comparison to during the week, that can severely affect your sleep quality. Now, has anyone heard about like compounding interest, or compounded percentage increase, or something like that? Compounded
I think
inflation?
Einstein defined the eighth beauty of the universe. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
If you
yeah.
put the compounding interest in Einstein, he says is.
Einstein said that, no?
Yeah.
That's it. I know. So this is the fantastic thing about compound interest or compound inflation, right? So there's a concept called Kaizen. Kaizen is a Japanese philosophy of daily minimal improvements. If someone improves 1% a day over the course of the year, it will add up. However, because of compound interest, what we actually find is over, say, 365 days of improving by 1% a day, that person will improve by 36-fold by the end of the year. And the reason why is, for example, this. Say if I've got the number 1 and I increase it by 50% 3 times, you go from 1 to 1.5, say 2.25, to then about 3.475, and then after that it will be about, what would that be? Then about 5 or 5.5 or something like that, right? So I've just increased it by half 5 times, but it's ended up being 5-fold increase over 5 times, right? So your daily improvements accrue over time. The more routine you get with your schoolwork, with your training, all these things add up to a large amount at the end of the process. However, the inverse is true. If you're chronically sleep deprived, if your intelligence and your coordination and your effort and your motivation is chronically deprived day after day after day, then you're going to end up far more behind than you might think. Yeah? All right, good stuff. So we've got diet, sleep, exercise. As well as that, the last thing I'm going to give you is just a little bit of advice as to how you can make yourself specifically better tumblers. First thing, you need to listen to your body. If you're feeling very sore, or if you're feeling that something might go, then it's very important that you tell your coaches so that you can downscale the amount of exercise or the amount of load that you're putting your body through. Be honest with yourselves, don't lie to yourselves. If you just don't feel like it that day, that's very different in comparison to actually feeling significantly sore or feeling like something is concerning you, right? Make sure that your training is polarized, so you're not hitting the same body area every time that you train. It should be as polarized as possible, and you need to make sure that the effort level is polarized. So you have low intensity days, high intensity days, or low intensity exercise and high intensity exercise. Once again, that makes sure that the foundations of your pyramid is nice and wide. You're not too stressed at one end. You're nice and diverse in the investments that you're making in your exercise. Apart from that, it's all about having fun, making sure that you're building a positive mindset when it comes to exercise, because this is really something that you should be doing for the rest of your lives in terms of exercise. Not necessarily tumbling, but exercise you should do for the rest of your lives. So make sure that you build a positive relationship with it. What I'll say to you guys as parents as well is remember that you get 10% off at the clinic, but what you can do, we send out regular information which can help to improve the health of our clients. So if you have your phones on you, I can just give you my number. So type in 07714
07714
282526.
So 07714 282526.
Yeah. So if you send your name and your email address, I'll send you over some resources from our website, and I can add you to our mailing list as well, where you'll get regular emails to improve health, to improve focus, reduce injury likelihood, etc.
Is that your own business or you're employed by the company?
Business. Yeah,
Okay, okay. Where are you based?
Gravesend. It's
Ah,
in the
just
town
here.
centre.
Okay, good.
It's in the town
Can you
centre.
shout the number out again?
Yeah, 07714
Yep.
282526. So we've been established for just over 9 years now. We've helped over 8,600 people to improve their physical health, mental health, physical fitness, reduce pain. So yeah, if you've got any questions, please free to shout. Yes, you have a question. Oh yeah, thank you. It's just that one there. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Well done,
Right over there.
Okay.
Was that all right? Okay. Do you feel like you got something from that?
Yeah.
Amazing. Very good. Thank you. Any questions at all? Any
Don't have
questions?
any questions?
Students or athletes or parents?
Have you got any pearls of wisdom to help ankle injuries specifically? Because
100%.
we're currently rehabbing 3/4 if you count Jodie.
Okay, cool. So let's go through that quickly now. So who's got, say, whose ankles are quite comfortable at the moment but tend to be quite painful? Yeah. Okay.
Gabby, how's yours today?
She's one of us in a boot, so.
Yeah, so you're not comfortable because you've got a boot. I see someone to come up here. I'm just going to go assessment.
Martina, you go, because you get sore ankles.
Cool. Martina, nice to meet you. All right, so let's have a look at a few things. This is a scale, right? So the benefit of a scale is we're going to progress until we reach a point that you can't do, and then that's the area that you focus on. Yeah? All right, very good. So start off, Martina. All I want you to do is lay on your back with me, please. And I want you to try and take your take your feet to your shins. Try and bend your ankles back as far as you can. No. Here, just try and bend your ankles back as far as you can. All right, so here, that could be significantly better, right? So we'd be looking at about 10 to 15 degrees. Here, it's looking, say, maybe about 5 to 10, same on that side, and relax. Point your toes for me, please. This is pretty good, so we've got a good toe point. Right, you can relax now if you like, Martina. Now, the benefit of really good dorsal flexion, which is this movement here, is that's your spring mechanism. So when you land, that needs to be able to give to allow force to disperse up. If it doesn't, the force is going to get trapped at the ankle or go higher up into the knee. If you'd like to stand up for me, please, Martina. So from here, it's going to ask you to stand on one leg. Alright, that's really good. Then try on the other side. Good, and back to normal. So balance is good in the ankles. If I can have a look at you do a squat, please. Is that a clip or how low it is? And then back up for me, please. So we have to mimic the foot angle with the pelvis when we squat. So you have to squat with a 10 to 2 position. Imagine if, yeah, that's it. And then try the same thing. Drive the knees out for me, please. You see how now Martina can go a lot lower, right? Now I want you to see. I want to see if you can close this angle here. Good. Keep your chest up. Yeah, perfect. So put your chest up in the air. Good. So mobility is not so much of an issue. So Martina can maintain a nice position here. So it might indicate that when force is being put through the ankle, your mobility is a lot better, right? So now what I need you to do is walk on your tiptoes for me, please. So you stand up, please. So when we're doing this, let's walk forward and back. We're looking to make sure that Martina can keep her heels high. Keep doing that for me, please. Keep your heels off the floor as high as you can. If the heels can't, keep going forward and back. If the heels they can't stay elevated over say 30 or 60 seconds, then it means that there might be some underlying weakness. Now, Martina, is that getting harder the more that you do it? Or is it not? Perfect, it feels fine. Good. Can you try and walk on your heels for me, please? So this is where, yeah, so really what should happen is Martina should be able to walk relatively upright with her feet elevated, right? But what we've got here is this. Right, and I've used your ankles a little bit to kind of compensate away. But just those in themselves are 2 drills that you can practice at least as a warm up. So next one, we'll probably go straight onto single leg. So from here, I'm going to see if you can go up onto your tiptoes and back down. Now you should be able to do this at least 20 times, yeah, especially for you guys. Let's see what you can do. So I'm just going to place my hand here to use support. 3, higher, slow down, good. 4, 5, 6. Tell me when it gets significantly difficult. Is it getting difficult?
Yeah.
Okay. Hurts. Okay. Try on the other side. So 1, slow down. 2, 3. Hard already. Yeah. So you should be able to get to at least 20. Right. At least 20. The next after that is 2 exercises that I would scale into, dependent on the fitness of the athlete. Right. So the first is a hop. So from here, just 10 times. So calf raises will be the first exercise. Second will be a hop. So from here, I want to see how high you can get 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and relax. Come on side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. You feeling alright?
Yeah.
How are the ankles feeling?
Good.
Fine. So now we want to increase force a little bit by jumping the box. So you want a box on the floor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah? So because it's multi-directional, we're now stressing different areas of the ankle. Try that for me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Reverse it. 1, 2, 3, 4. And relax. Alright? Perfect. Next one is one of my favourite exercises, which is the pistol squat. It might be easier to do this. I'm going to say it, don't worry. It might be easier to do this on a bench. Can I? So, from here, from this position, you can stand up. I can do it, you definitely be able to do it. Good. Now, the movement cue that we want to practice when we do this, so Martina, if you just mimic me from here, just stick your bum up and stick your hip out to the side. Yeah, there. Hold the tension here. So I'll mirror you. So here. Yes, exactly that. Then down. Then up. So it's something. That's why the bench is there. So you can sit down on it. Sit down on the bench. Then stand up again. That's it. So the way that you scale it is you hold on to something, or you have a bit of a higher seat, and then bit by bit, Martin, you just get better and better at it. But you should be able to do 3 sets of 10 on that, increasing depth. 3 sets of 20 of the calf movements and the jumps as well. They're really good standard entry exercises to improve efficiency, but also injury prevention as well. Alright, what am I doing? Anything else?
Does anybody else have any questions?
All good?
Yeah.
Yeah? What's the question?
Does temperature mean anything?
temperature.
Yeah.
Are you talking about if you had a fever?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So is this because you've had a fever recently? Okay, fine. So the body. I don't know if you guys have heard of like an ecosystem before, homeostasis. Okay. So a lot of things that are living, they require a very, very fine balance to maintain optimal function, which is essentially what we've been speaking about today, how you can maintain optimal function, right? So you know how a lot of people are talking about climate change at the moment, right? So that's because if the temperature starts to change too much, all of these millions of species of different plants and animals that have adapted to a certain range in temperature will then start to die, or they'll start to be heavily compromised because of the change in temperature. Yeah? The same thing happens within our bodies. So if we take, say, an ecosystem in the world, so you've got, say, elephants and lions and zebras and deers and antelope and things like that, right? In our bodies, we have bacteria, we have enzymes, we have nerve tissue, and all of these things need a certain temperature to be able to thrive. If the temperature starts to increase or decrease too much, that efficiency reduces. That's why you do a warm-up before you exercise, because you're trying to get your body at an optimal temperature. Now, when we go through a fever, what's happening is our body is essentially playing chicken with the virus or the bacteria, i.e. saying that I'm going to start to heat up, and one of us is going to make it. So it's trying to kill off the bacteria or the virus that it's been infected with, to try and reduce, by increasing bodily temperature. So when you go for a fever, your body's trying to help you, trying to protect you, but it's quite uncomfortable when it does so. Yeah. So when you're going for a fever, you need to make sure that you're well hydrated, that you can cool your forehead for symptomatic relief. You can take, I think it's aspirin to help to reduce your bodily temperature, or at least to control it. You can take ibuprofen to reduce any inflammation, but it's a process that your body needs to go through, unfortunately. Yeah. Cool. Any other questions? Yes.
What will be your advice after training day when it's finished like at 8:15 and we at home like around 30 past 8? We need to eat something very quickly and then
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
So what will be your advice
The best
about
solution.
food and sleep? Because different age of kids, the stomach
100%.
works different.
Yeah. The other thing is, unfortunately, if we do eat too much before we sleep, it can affect the quality of our sleep.
Yeah,
Right.
but if you have training like 3 hours before.
I completely understand.
Yeah.
So, a few things that you could do. First of all, I mean, you guys need a certain number of calories, otherwise you will suffer from more injuries, you won't recover from training,
Yeah,
etc.
and
Right?
you will not recover.
Precisely. So, it doesn't matter too much when you consume those calories, right? So what you could do is have a much bigger breakfast, or put much more in the lunch boxes to fill them up at school, so they've got more energy for training. And then on the way back from training, if you do have time, you could prepare, say, a high calorie smoothie. So in that you could have your fruits, your berries. You could put some nuts or peanut butter in there as well. So like one of my favourites would be banana and peanut butter.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. So it's a really easy way to get calories in, because peanut butter and bananas are high in calories. But then as well as that, you could also put some protein in there. So
about protein,
yeah.
From what age do you think is better kids
Yes.
to start to have it, and what kind of protein?
Not a problem. So you tend to find that plant-based protein doesn't peak inflammation as much, and it does.
More like beans, from beans.
Beans, but then if you're looking for a powder form, you'd be looking at soy, or you'd be looking at a mixture.
Do you think soy one is better than from the beans?
Yeah, so I haven't seen powdered bean protein, but I might be mistaken. Okay, amazing. So what some companies do, so I think it's Go Nutrition. Go Nutrition is the company. They actually blend multiple forms of protein together. So they have hemp, pea, soy. Now the benefit of that is you get the different variety of amino acids, but as well as that, you're not putting as much strain on the body by having to metabolize one particular thing. The benefit is that if you mix it with other, say, forms of food, like banana, peanut butter, more form of protein, more form of fibre, it slows the body's absorption of it, so it doesn't put as much strain on it. Now, I would say you're probably looking at like late adolescence to start to really need protein powder, or if it starts to be beneficial. So maybe after the age of 16, 17, when they're starting to go through their real big strength gains. Prior to that, you'd probably be able to get enough protein from the peanut butter banana smoothie. You can also put some veggies in there, so you can put some spinach in there. They won't be able to tell the difference. And then you can have a handful of nuts to consume on the way home. You get home, you might snack a little bit more. All that's digested. You go to bed, say, you know, 9:30, 9, 10, and then it'll be probably more comfortable for them by the next day.
About spinach as well, if you buy it from supermarket,
Yeah.
they are very low of any
The nutrients.
nutrients.
Yeah.
What is your, what are you thinking about, you know, the supplement tablets?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
good, anything like that?
Yeah, so as far as I'm aware from the research that I've read, you're right, over farming can reduce nutrient density in food, but it's not as much as what we might think it is. So we might think that it's like a tenth of what it was, say, 50 years ago.
Eat like a kilo sometimes.
Yeah. But don't worry too much. The discrepancy isn't as much as we might think, right? But what you could also take is a chewy supplement called, I think it's Well Kids. Well Kids is a nutritional supplement which you can take, which can help to rebalance their nutritional profile. And the benefit is that with nutrients, if there's too much in the body will just urinate it out. So you can't. I think vitamin A and vitamin K, you can actually build up a little bit too much. Vitamin B12 you can as well, but that's mainly through injections. You could have, say, too many. But apart from that, there's a very low risk of taking too many supplements.
And after, what will be your advice for gymnasts? How many kilos they need to run to make them breathing properly?
Yeah.
Their feet goes properly as
Yeah.
well, because lots of gymnasts sometimes they struggling to put their feet properly
Straight?
when they're running.
Yeah. Are you talking more for function or for marking? So you talk about for the judges' perspectives or?
No, not for the judges.
Yeah.
Just to be better gymnast.
Oh, got you.
Your advice for running.
Yeah.
How much kilos weekly?
Kilometers, fine. So first off, I would focus more on time and effort rather than distance, right? Because these gymnasts, you're only going to be performing at maximum, like a minute, 2 minutes at a time when it comes to tumbling. Is that right?
2 minutes 15. 2:45 for full teams. 2:15.
Yeah. Okay, fine. So you don't really need to be doing much else than lactic acid training. So lactic acid training would be, say, sprint, walk. That's going to be much more specific for the gymnast than, say, like a 3K run, something like that, right? And it's something that you can do very easily at the end of the training session for metabolic conditioning, or you can just spend, say, a couple of 15-minute sessions during the week, as long as it's not taking too much out of your bodies to do this and the sprint work, right? When it comes to where your feet are going when you're running, that's about movement cues. So you wouldn't want to keep the feet straight, because that's an internal movement cue. It's much better to have an external movement cue, to how the body can put force into the environment. So, for example, an internal movement cue would be bring my knee in. An external movement cue would be knee the air in front of you. So kneeing forward, or trying to propel yourself forward, or trying to push off the floor is an external movement cue. And you can use those cues to improve form when running. But people run differently, and people have different bodily mechanics. So you don't want to force them too much into what is like a false ideal.
You know, some of the gymnasts who is very running very quickly, they do another thing very good as well. Just because they have a power to run, and they know how to. Probably some of them are they born like that, you know, and they already know how to run. And this run movement, correct run movement, gives them lots of power to go up and land nicely.
So it's practice movement cues.
What kind of movement gymnasts need to learn to improve them running?
That would just be sprint drills. And it'll be sprint drills. It'll be very specific to the individual gymnast, and you're more welcome to bring them to the clinic for an assessment. But they would need cues which are specific to them in the way they want to correct it. It's not going to be a general movement cue for all gymnasts. Any other questions? All good? All right. Well, it's my pleasure speaking to you today. I hope that was a bit of thought. It gives you food for thought. And of course, if you ever need any help, you're more welcome to come to us at the clinic anytime.
Thank
you very
you.
much. Thank you.
I'm hoping you was listening about food.
Sorry.
That's